What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is OCD Movie Reviews. My name is Brinkat, and leading up to Wonka, I've already covered Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but of course, there is another Charlie and the Chocolate Factory adaptation out there, and that movie is, of course, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This movie came out in 2005. It is directed by Tim Burton, and this movie stars Johnny Depp, Helena, Freddie, Highmore, Noah Taylor, David Kelly, Christopher Lee, and Deep Roy. Now, here's the thing about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like I said in my Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory review, this was my first Willy Wonka experience. It was actually Charlie and the Chocolate Factory because this movie came out when I was 5 years old, but years later I watched this movie and I remember liking this movie as a kid. Unaware that this movie is the second adaptation to the source material, I've also read the book for this movie, like I said in my Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory review. So, I grew up with this movie. Now, I watched this recently, just seeing if this movie does hold up, because of course, this is an adaptation. I wouldn't consider this as a remake of the original film. It's more of another adaptation of the source material. It doesn't take things from the original film. This movie is its own thing. So, what do I think of this movie? Obviously, this movie is not as good as the classic right here. That is easy to say. But as on its own, do I like this movie? To be honest with you guys, this movie, in my opinion, does not hold up. But there are some positives with this film. There are some things that I appreciate about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This is not a terrible movie at all. But I would definitely say this is definitely not the best Tim Burton film. This definitely is, I wouldn't say his worst, I would say his most mixed bag. Because like I said, there are some things that I do appreciate from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from rewatch. So let's talk about some of the positives of this film. First of all, this movie, when it comes to the accuracy of the book, this movie is definitely the most accurate to the book. There are moments in the book that are in this movie, such as the Oompa Loompa songs, the lyrics in the book that are actually in the movie. Also, like the Indian Prince scene. Yes, that was in the book. A lot of people say that's very out of place. No, it's actually in the book. I would say one of my biggest positives with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and the thing that I really do appreciate about this movie, is the production design. Tim Burton knows how to make production design fantastically. From the outside of the factory, and especially the inside of the factory. The rooms in this film actually look really good in this film. From the chocolate room that looks very, very candy-like. I really do like the chocolate room in this movie. Better than the original, in my personal opinion. Because there are some things in the original movie that don't hold up. And some of the production design in that movie, it was good back then. It does not hold up today, in my personal opinion, especially when it comes to the chocolate room with the chocolate river looking like sewage water. The chocolate river in this film does look like chocolate. But with the inventing room, the squirrels room, you know, the boat scene, you know, the TV room, like, the production design of this movie is actually really well done. I love the look of the factory, but even outside of the factory as well, the color schemes are really well done. And another thing that Tim Burton is really great at, such as movies like Edward Scissorhands. When you're in Edward's castle, it looks very dark, mysterious, and just lonely. And outside of his house with the town, it looks all colorful and mysterious and all new. This movie kind of does a similar thing. Outside the factory where Charlie lives looks very white, dry, cold, just very, very unmysterious. And then inside the factory, it's all colorful and stuff. So I really do appreciate what Tim Burton does when it comes to production design. But what about the cast, though? Other than Willy Wonka and Charlie in this film, which I will talk about in my negatives, unfortunately, the rest of the cast in this movie actually did a pretty good job. From Charlie's parents in this film, played by Helena and Noah Taylor, I thought them two are really good in this film. Noah Taylor does a really good job as Charlie's dad. You definitely feel the most sympathy for him out of the entire family in the film because he has a job, but of course, things happen in his job that make this family much more poorer. And Helena as Charlie's mum, I think this is the most normal role she has been playing because, yeah, she plays weird characters in most Tim Burton lore, and seeing her play this normal, sweet mother, something different, and Helena does a really good job in this film. Charlie's grandparents, though, I really like them in this film because, other than Grandpa Joe, we get to explore the rest of the grandparents in this film. Honestly, my favorite character in this entire movie, underratedly, is Grandpa George in this film. Rest in peace to the actor who played Grandpa George in this film because, honestly, he actually cracks me up in this film because he's very brutally honest in this film.
Well, it's a good thing you're going to a chocolate factory, you ungrateful little...
In lorem ipsum admitum venium tragula.
That question is, who will be the winner?
I'm just like, why didn't Charlie just bring him to the factory? That would have made the movie much more interesting and much more fun. Grandpa George is freaking awesome in this film. But let's talk about Grandpa Joe in this film that is played by David Kelly. Now, comparing to Jack Oberson, of course, he plays a completely different Grandpa Joe than he plays in the original film. But I really do like David Kelly in this role. He plays a sweet grandfather, and I feel like he's very personal to me because he definitely reminds me of my grandparents when they tell me stories about his life, like he tells Charlie stories about him and Willy Wonka in the factory. I thought that's really awesome to see. And I think David Kelly plays a really good sweet side of Grandpa Joe, and he has a really good chemistry with Charlie in this film. Also, the other 4 kids in this film, not Charlie, the other 4 kids, they play their roles very, very well. Augustus Gloop in this film was very well handled in this film because he is a monster in this film. When you see him eating like a pig in this film, yeah, you get to see the Augustus Gloop that we were expecting. Like in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, like, yeah, he is a pig and all, but it doesn't really show that much of it. In this movie, they showed more of Augustus Gloop, what he is. He's just a slob in this film, and he does a pretty good job in the film, even though he's not in the movie all that much. With other characters such as Violet Beauregard and Veruca Salt, they're handled very, very well. But also, Jordan Fry, once again, as Mike TV. Mike TV gets another win for this movie because I thought he looked like he had the most fun out of the kids in this film. He plays a savage asshole that loves video games and all that stuff, so this movie definitely monorizes more than the original film. But Jordan Fry actually does a pretty good job in this film. The one-liners that he explains in the film, he looks like he had so much fun saying these lines, and he's definitely the most passionate out of all the actors in this film. Also, the Oompa Loompa songs themselves. Now, the songs, they're okay, obviously, but I really do appreciate what they're doing with the Oompa Loompa songs in this film. They're going from different music styles. You know, with Augustus Gloop song, it goes for this 50 jazz music.
Augustus Gloop, the great bakery nincompoop. Augustus Gloop, so big and vile, so greedy, foul, and infantile.
With Violet Beauregard, it's going for this like 80s hip hop.
Listen close, listen hard. Little Violet Beauregard, this little girl, she sees the road. Chewing.
Veruca Salt is going for this sunny Beach Boys, Beatles type tone.
Veruca Salt, the little brute, has just gone down the garbage chute, and she will meet as she descends a rather different set of friends.
And Mike TV is like 80s, 90s rock.
It wants the senses in the head.
It keeps imagination dead.
It clogs and clutters up the mind.
It makes a child so dull and blind.
So dull.
I really do appreciate what they're doing with the Oompa Loompa songs in this film. Of course, it's not as good as the original Oompa Loompa song, but I really do appreciate what they're doing in this film, and I really did like some of the songs in the film. I grew up with these songs, so I can't take that away from me. But yeah, those are my positives, unfortunately. The technical aspects and the acting throughout the most part of this film, but yep, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is definitely not as good as the original film, and here is why. Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. Now, I love Johnny Depp. Great actor. I love this actor. But honestly, he's just very miscasted as Willy Wonka. I can appreciate what they're doing with Willy Wonka, making him different than Gene Wilder. He's trying to play a character that's an inner child that's been trapped in his factory all these years and basically haven't got any communication with the outside world. I see that. But honestly, Johnny Depp is just so annoying as Willy Wonka and just very freaking unlikable in this film. He doesn't seem like he cares who runs the factory in this film. At least in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, he kind of hides his like darkness in him, you know? Like, he's very charming, he's very whimsical and magical. None of that happens with Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. Especially when he does that annoying like chuckle like Shut up! And just like the one-liners, he's trying to be really funny in this film, trying to be a child in this film, and I gotta say, the humor from him does not work for me, which is a pretty big shame. I love Johnny Depp, but him as Willy Wonka, I'm sorry. he doesn't work out in this film. But the one that I didn't like the most, honestly, is Freddie Highmore as Charlie. I love Freddie Highmore. I grew up with this kid actor. I've seen movies like Spiderwig Chronicles or all that stuff. But him as Charlie in this film, I'm sorry, he's just really freaking bland in this film. The difference between Freddie Highmore and Peter Ostron in the original film, Peter Ostron plays a completely normal kid. He's happy when he needs to, he's sad when he needs to, he's angry when he needs to. This movie, Freddie Highmore has basically one expression the whole way through, and he's basically a saint in this film. Like, he's so freaking nice to everyone. And yeah, Charlie in the original is nice too, but there are times where he's angry. There are times where he says things that he would regret. This movie, he's just a complete saint in this film, and Charlie is just very, very bland in this film, especially when it comes to Freddie Highmore's acting in this film. He has one emotion throughout this entire film. Also, the Oompa Loompas themselves, played by Deep Roy. Now, I appreciate Deep Roy for playing a lot of Oompa Loompas in this film. It looks like very hard work. I do appreciate that. But unfortunately, the Oompa Loompas are just not that interesting in this film, especially from the look of it. Now, when you think of Oompa Loompas, what would you think? I would think of this green-haired, orange-faced men. You know, like, they look like creatures. They look like they're not human. This movie is just multiples of Tiny Deep Roy just singing in the film, and just the way the Oompa Loompas look in the film, it just didn't look all that interesting. And honestly, Willy Wonka's backstory in this film, I didn't really care for. And it's a weird thing because Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is more about Charlie, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is more about Willy Wonka. Can these titles just switch? Because this does feel more like a Willy Wonka movie than a Charlie movie. Charlie is in the film and is one of the main plots of the film, but I'm not gonna lie, when they're in the factory in the film, I forgot Charlie was even there. Because this movie is more focused on Willy Wonka and his backstory, with Christopher Lee playing his dad, who also does a very cringy performance in this film. Lollipops. I just didn't find Willy Wonka's backstory all that interesting, and it's a shame because it has potential, but since Willy Wonka is just very unlikable in this film, I just didn't really care for it all that much. But just the story in general, I just wasn't feeling it in this movie than I was with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yes, the production design looks great. The factory looks like a factory. But I just didn't feel the charm like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory has. The movie is mostly very freaking bland and also just very, very dull. And of course, it's Tim Burton. He does some dark shit in these movies, and with this movie, I just feel like it doesn't work with Tim Burton's, you know, uniqueness and weirdness style to it. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is supposed to be a very whimsical book, and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, even though Roald Dahl himself did not like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it captures the magic of the book. This movie is just more accurate to the book, but it just didn't catch the magic in my opinion. The story, you know, it's the same story. We all know how it's going to be. It's mostly accurate to the book with some changes, and I just didn't find the story as willing and magical like the original. And I know people saying, you're just comparing it to the original. I'm judging this as its own thing. I'm judging this as a film, and I'm still seeing the dullness of it. Overall, guys, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, there are some things to like in this film. I would say this film is definitely at least a bit watchable, because I like this film as a kid, and that's not going to go away with it. But still, this movie has a lot of issues. It's definitely not as good as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Johnny Depp, in my opinion, not a great Willy Wonka. Charlie Bucket, Freddie Highmore, not that great in my opinion. The rest of the cast does a great job. The production design is great. There's some appreciation that I could give Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I would say the production design is definitely the standout for me in this film. But overall, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, although it's a bit watchable for me because I liked it as a kid, it's definitely not a great adaptation to the source material, and hopefully Wonka basically fixes the problems that I had with this movie, because I'm going to give Charlie and the Chocolate Factory a C. Not a terrible movie at all. It's watchable, but definitely not as great as the original, and definitely ruins the charm that the original has. So guys, that's my review for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. 2 Willy Wonka movies done, leading up to Wonka. Let me know in the comments below, which one you much prefer? Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Because there are some people that like this movie, and I completely understand your opinion. There are some people that like this better than original. It's their opinion. I'm open with opinions in the comments below. Let me know what you think of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. keep contact with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and notify for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. Oh man, I forgot about this!